So Bernie Sanders and Khanna seriously can't stop winning. They're winning so much it's making my head spin. This story is absolutely incredible, and it brings a smile to my face. I don't think Khanna is getting as much credit as he deserves on this. He deserves a hell of a lot more credit than he's gotten so far in mainstream media. In fact, very few mainstream media outlets have even mentioned Khanna proposing this in the House, as Bernie, proposes it in the Senate. But let's take a look here what Business Insider says. Senator Bernie Sanders recently introduced the Stop Bezos Act, a bill targeting major corporations like Amazon, whose workers receive government aid. Amazon on Tuesday announced plans to increase the minimum wage for its workers to $15 an hour. Amazon's shift means the Stop Bezos Act did what it was designed to do, even if it never becomes law. Okay, so let me explain how this is a giant win. There are caveats, and I'm going to get to the caveats. I'm going to give you every aspect of this, every angle of this, because I think it's all important to share. But here's why this is a major win. Khanna and Bernie Sanders got a tremendous amount of shit over this bill. And they got shit from every direction. So, of course, you had the establishment-minded folks, politicians, journalists, reporters, economists. They scoffed at it, and they were like, no! Trying to help workers? How naive and silly is that? Why would you do such a thing? And listen, we don't even need to get into the arguments made by the establishment folks, because as usual, they're incredibly hacky and they're, for the most part, disingenuous, and they're just bad. But this bill, they also got shit from the left. I know because a lot of people I follow pointed out, like, this ain't it. And they wrote these articles about how, listen, man, here's the problem with the way you crafted this bill, is that it stigmatizes people who are on these social programs, and you shouldn't want to stigmatize them. So it's portraying them in a negative light, and that's unacceptable, so you should have framed this bill in a different way and proposed it in a different way. Now, when I covered this, I was one of the first people to cover this piece of legislation that Bernie and Khanna brought up, and my commentary was the exact opposite. So what does this bill do? Yeah, let's run through that again for those of you who don't remember. Amazon and other giant mega corporations, they game the system. So what they do is they pay their workers poverty wages, and then what happens is those workers are then forced to go use the social safety net to go get welfare in order to make ends meet. If you don't get paid a living wage at your job, well, in order to continue to live, you have to make up the difference somehow. In steps the government with all of these social programs, and then what happens is it ends up being the case that taxpayers pay billions of dollars to people who are working full-time jobs for mega profitable corporations. So what this bill did is, I said it was brilliant because of the framing of it. The framing of it is truly bipartisan for left-wing ends. So the framing of it is, well, hello, lefties. What we're doing here is we're trying to get people a living wage. It would tax Amazon 100% for all of the money that their workers get from social programs. So you understand that framing? It's this: you shouldn't hose the taxpayers. You should just pay them a living wage. So what we're going to do is tax you 100% for all of the money that your workers end up getting from social programs. The brilliance of that framing is, I think most left-wingers will go, okay, well then the end result is getting these people a living wage, so great idea. But even the right-wingers, you've now cornered them with their own argument. So you say to the right-wingers, you're against this bill? Why do you love big government? Why do you love welfare? I thought you wanted to shrink government. I thought you wanted small government. Well, we're giving you an opportunity to get small government here. This gets those workers off of those social safety net programs, off the welfare programs. Why wouldn't you want that? I thought you were against welfare. I guess you're for welfare. So that's the brilliance of the framing. Most on the left will go, oh, that makes sense. You're getting these people a living wage. And then most people on the right will go, oh, it makes sense. You're shrinking government. You're saying, hey, Amazon can no longer leech off the system and force their workers to get help from the social safety net. That was the brilliance of the framing. But again, so they got, Bernie and Roe got shit from even the left who were saying, no, the way you frame this is all wrong because you're stigmatizing people on the social safety net. There's nothing wrong with using the social safety net. In order to win political victories, sometimes your framing has to be such that you maintain your base and you also chip away and get support from the other side. That doesn't mean you compromise your core values. Your core values, I'm probably the most uncompromising voice when it comes to, my policy priorities. But I understand how important it is to frame an issue where you're not just preaching to the choir. You want to sit around all day and get nothing fucking accomplished and talk about how great of people you are and how great your ideas are while not actually getting people to agree with those ideas? Have fun. That's like fucking masturbation. It's like, oh, aren't I great? Yeah, we're great. Aren't we great? Oh, yeah, we're great. Everybody else disagrees, but yeah, aren't we great? Yeah, we're great. The brilliance of this framing was it forces the hand of people on the right to go, it does shrink government. I guess that's a good idea. So what happened? Well, listen, my guess is Jeff Bezos looked at this bill. It was called the Stop Bezos Act, for fuck's sake, which is, again, awesome framing because it's directly calling him out and getting his attention. So Jeff Bezos, my guess is he read through the bill or looked over, the big parts of the bill, and I think he was scared. I think he was scared that this piece of legislation was going to gain momentum. And before he was forced to do the right thing with the law, what ended up happening was he was shamed to do the right thing because the media actually picked up this bill to their credit and wrote about it. And like I said, they got a lot of people who were arguing against it from an establishment perspective and from a left-wing base perspective. But it got enough coverage where it got Bezos' attention. He looked it over, and my guess is that he really thought this thing is going to gain traction, and it's going to gain traction because of the framing of it, because you can get Republican votes, and you're going to have Democratic support as well. Now, reality is Bezos was wrong. The bill was going nowhere because, listen, when you propose positive things, unfortunately, most of them are dead on arrival, especially in this government that we have now. But again, the fact that it got massive media attention, the fact that it was framed in a way that it could give somebody the impression it might go somewhere, it shamed Jeff Bezos into doing the right thing. That's what happened. He got shamed into doing the right thing. It worked. And then the point is, listen, this may have been the whole idea behind it in the first place. If you talk to Khanna, if you talk to Bernie Sanders, in an honest moment, they might tell you, I don't know this for sure, but my guess is this is true. They'll tell you, yeah, that was pretty much all we were trying to do, was like shame him into doing the right thing because we knew it wasn't going to pass. You got a fucking Republican Congress. You got Donald Trump as president. What are you talking about? Of course we're not going to get this fucking pass. You kidding me? But it shamed him to do the right thing, which is awesome. And guys, you know how many people this affects? I'm not kidding about this. 350,000 people. 350,000 people. I saw a video of when this was announced to Amazon workers at one of their factories. They all started cheering. And they were so happy. I'm tearing up now too. This is such a positive step, man. I mean, Khanna and Bernie Sanders should seriously, number one, pat themselves on the back, and number two, brag about this at every opportunity possible. Because they just materially improved the lives of 350,000 people. Okay? It doesn't get any better than that. It really doesn't. I mean, that is That's impressive. Now, 100,000 of those people, I think, are part-time, like seasonal workers, but 250,000 are the Amazon workers. And this also applies to Whole Foods now, too, because Whole Foods, Amazon, I think, bought Whole Foods, so now it applies to them, too. So now they have a living wage, and that's awesome. Now, while all of that's great, and again, giant step in the right direction, we do need to keep this in mind, though. Take a look. There are 170,000 fewer retail jobs in 2017 and 75,000 more Amazon robots. So, some people are arguing that, hey man, I'm skeptical of everything that happened here because Bezos is going to move towards automation anyway. So this is like window dressing to try to make himself look like a good person. Well, yes and no. I mean, the reality is not only Bezos, but the entire economy is moving towards automation regardless of what happens with wages. I mean, that's just a fact of reality. So if it's going to happen no matter what, it would be better, and it is better as a matter of principle, to pay people a living wage in the meantime. Now, this does show that you do need, obviously, other ways to address what's happening in our economy when it comes to the proper policies, but I'm going to get to that in a second. But it is important. I wanted to share with you that, yes, we are, not just Bezos, but the entire economy is moving towards automation. So we're going to have other, roadblocks ahead that we're going to have to deal with. But then there's also this from Axios. Here's what they say. Some Amazon employees may make less money despite the company's decision to raise its U.S. minimum wage to $15 an hour, Yahoo Finance reports. The details, although Amazon employees may make more per hour, warehouse workers told Yahoo Finance that the company is removing perks and incentives such as stock and bonus options, which will result in some employees ultimately losing money. So, okay, now, here's the solution to all of these caveats that I just gave you to the good news that we have. This is why you need $15 an hour, living wage, and a union. Remember, that's what Fight for 15 is asking for. $15 an hour and a union. Not just living wage and a union. So you need $15 an hour, a union, and to deal with the coming crisis of automation, universal basic income. I was so-so on universal basic income for a while, but I've been flipped. And I've been flipped because, number one, before I wasn't convinced it was economically feasible. Now I am convinced it's economically feasible. And also, the way to view it is just, honestly, a Social Security check for everybody is what it is. Like, you know how we have Medicare for all? If you framed universal basic income as Social Security for all, well, then again, everybody would be for it. It's the same. The brilliance that happened with the framing of Medicare for all was when you called it single payer, it was like 50% favorability rating. But when you call it Medicare for all, now it's 70% favorability rating. So when you call universal basic income, I think a lot of people go, I don't know if that's workable. But if you just call it Social Security for all, I think people will go, that probably is workable, and I like Social Security. So I think that because of automation, you're going to have to move to a universal basic income system at some point. And I do think it's economically feasible. And you also need a union along with the $15 an hour, because if you don't have a union, that's when you get these tricky moves from Bezos. Now, again, I don't want to be don't be too cynical. Don't let your skepticism is a good thing. I support skepticism 100%. But don't let your skepticism become cynicism by saying, hey, because of the two downsides of what happened here, it wasn't a step in the right direction. There's a reason why the Axios article kept writing, some Amazon employees may make less money despite the company's decision to raise to $15 an hour. The reality is, the overwhelming majority of them are going to make more money. And now nobody is going to be making less than a living wage. So if you look at it in totality, it's definitely a step in the right direction. I think the math will prove that out, that more people are making more money. Everybody's now making a living wage. That's positive, even though it's screwed up that they took away some of the incentives and they removed some of the perks. But again, the solution to that part is $15 and a union. If you had a union, you wouldn't lose those perks. So there always is a catch, because you're dealing with a corporation here and they're amoral machines. But I don't think the catch outweighs the net benefit, where the $15 an hour, again, if you think this is not net a good thing, go talk to those workers who were cheering in the fucking, warehouse when they learned what was happening. This is unquestionably a step in the right direction. And don't let these articles, because I feel like what these articles are, they're trying to co-opt left-wing populism against itself. That's what I think that is. When they're like, oh, maybe some people are going to make it less, well, maybe this isn't a good idea. I think it's a way to try to attempt left-wing populists to go, yeah, maybe $15 an hour isn't a good thing. And it's like, no, they're tricking you. That's what that is. That's corporate media going, how can we flip this back on them somehow? So you have to be aware of all that. But again, the solution, living wage plus a union plus universal basic income. And then you have all your bases, taken care of here. But this is definitely a giant step in the right direction. Khanna, Bernie Sanders, brag about this every single opportunity you get. And then now the fight goes on. And also, by the way, now you do have an ally in terms of trying to pressure other corporations to do $15 an hour as well. Because Bezos is not going to want to have a competitive disadvantage. So he's going to now use this as something to brag about and to shame others about. Like, what do you mean? I pay $15 an hour. Why can't this other company do it? Why can't that other company do it? So I think overall, this is definitely a step in the right direction. But you have to add a union. You have to add universal basic income or social security for all. And we're getting there, man. We're getting there. But this is how you win. And by the way, credit not just to Khanna and Bernie Sanders, who deserve a tremendous amount of the credit, but credit to the Fight for 15 people, credit to all the working people who are organizing and fighting back and really raising hell about issues like this. It's the fact that you're uncompromising that allows you to win. If you don't ask for everything, you don't get anything. You have to ask for everything to get anything. Okay, you have to remember that, and that's why the establishment Democrats, the corporate Democrats, are 100% wrong in their strategy of concede up front, compromise up front. Because then you're starting with the middle position, and then when you cave, you're caving to a right-wing position. It's all the hard work of all the people who are organizing in favor of a living wage and a union and universal basic income and all these different ideas. It's the uncompromising nature of these people, the uncompromising nature of the Stop Bezos Act, which directly targeted a billionaire and said, you're the fucking problem. It is shooting for the stars that allows you to reach the moon. That's what we're seeing here. So keep fighting, because there's always going to be a pull and push in these situations. And Jeff Bezos is certainly not going to always do the right thing. By the way, also, Jeff, pay your fucking taxes, dipshit. I did a good thing. I'm paying people $50 an hour. Yeah, and pay your fucking taxes while you're at it, because you're screwing the taxpayers and robbing from the American people by not doing that. So, giant step in the right direction. I'm incredibly happy about it, but let's keep going. Let's get a union as well, and let's get Social Security for all.